Welcome. My name is Ruth Ann Webster. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of New Ulm. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit, nonpartisan political organization. That means we don't support parties, we don't support politicians. What we do is we study issues. And one of the local issues that we've really been paid a lot of attention to earlier this year while the legislature was in session was the issues of funding as it affected Oak Hills Living Center. And one thing we learned as we were paying attention to that issue is just how much community support there is for Oak Hills Living Center. So that leads me to our topic today, volunteer opportunities at Oak Hills Living Center. It did not surprise me when my friend Jane Walsh said to me, I have got a new gig. I said, oh, Jane, what's that gig? And she said, I'm volunteering at Oak Hills, and I love it. So I thought, well, this is an interesting topic. So that is our topic for today, which is, well, I guess we'll give it a name, the role of volunteers in Oak Hills Living Center. So I have two guests with me today. My friend Jane Walsh, who is a volunteer at Oak Hills, and Rachel Becker, who is the volunteer coordinator at Oak Hills. So I've talked enough. I'll let Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself? And I know you have a long history at Oak Hills, but tell folks out there how you got involved in Oak Hills Living Center.
Sure. So I'm the recreation director and the volunteer coordinator. I have been working at Oak Hills Living Center for 27 years. And I actually got my start at Oak Hills Living Center volunteering. So I had a college class and it required volunteer hours in a nursing home, and so I got started at Oak Hills and I never left. And it's been wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a blessing. It's been a great place to work. And so on the topic of volunteers, Eileen Jacobson had been the volunteer coordinator, and so when she retired, I got to take over as the volunteer coordinator, which was wonderful because she had a strong program going, and it's always nice to take things over from people when they've got it all running smoothly for you.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
I want to shift over to Jane because I'm interested in how, in your history as a volunteer overall, introduce yourself as a volunteer extraordinaire,
So, would you like, I've always volunteered, I think, because I was lucky enough that I could stay home with my children, but when my children went off to school, then I started volunteering in the school. After they left school, a few years ago when Numa's House started, then my husband and I volunteered at Numa's House. Well, then COVID and the end of volunteering. So this year I decided that it was time to do something in volunteering, but something that really fit me, I thought. And Oak Hills was what came to mind, probably because my kids tease me about old lady disease and getting to Oak Hills. So I sent an email to Rachel on the website, the Oak Hills website, and went through the process, and I love it.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
The residents are delightful to visit with, each and every one that I've encountered, and so it's a blessing for me, and I do feel like I'm doing something worthwhile.
Good. Now, we talked ahead of time, and I know, Rachel, that there's different types of volunteers at Oak Hills.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We have kind of more the traditional volunteer. Someone reaches out and they'd like to help out. And we have different things they can help with, activities like bingo, card club, helping with crafts, things like that. Sometimes we have people that would like to come in and do one-to-ones, where they go in and visit, maybe read the newspaper to people who aren't able to see, or something like that. We have volunteers that escort residents to doctor appointments if their family members are unavailable. So that's kind of more the traditional. Then we also have when we have church services, the churches will go and recruit volunteers to help with escorting residents to and from their church services. And that's wonderful to have that help. We have great attendance at those programs, and a big part of it is because they have volunteers coming in to do that. So that works well. I also have volunteers that come in to provide like musical entertainment. So there's lots of different facets. We also have like Gigi Risdall and Nancy Ginkle, who maintain the gardens out back in the courtyard, which is a huge project, a huge undertaking, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I try to work with people. If they want to come in and volunteer, I want to know what they're interested in doing, how much of a time commitment they'd like, and I want to do something that they enjoy so that they get the best experience.
Yeah, and you've moved on to the process, the steps that you go through when you volunteer. How did it work for you, Jane? You emailed, and then what happened?
I emailed, I got a response from Rachel, and we set up a time to meet. She went through some of the volunteer opportunities, what was I interested in, and then there's paperwork, of course. So the HR person joined us and did paperwork, because you do have to have a background check, which is painless, really. But there's the paperwork that gets submitted to the Department of Human Services,
Yep.
the state.
The state.
And then I got an email from them, some more information, et cetera, you know. And then I had to go over to Mankato to be fingerprinted.
Well, that must have been fun.
Well, of course.
Make a trip out of it.
Make a trip out of it. It's there again, it's digital, so that's painless if anybody's gone through the ink years ago. You know. So other than the time to drive over there, I was probably there in the office. It's on Riverfront Drive, so it's easy to get to, 10 minutes and all. And then as soon as those got submitted, I was approved, and I started that next day because it was bingo and social hour, and those are two. Well, they're back to back, and they're on Friday, and that is one of my set days because there's so many that participate in it. They enjoy it, and I feel like I help because there's so many that need to be wheeled down from wherever their room is, first or second floor. So there's a lot of transporting, and staff can't do that all and get people there in a timely manner. So, and it's an opportunity to visit with somebody as you're taking them down and all. And then the social hour, they so enjoy it, and there's visiting, and two of them in, the first time I poured a beer, informed me that I was doing it incorrectly, which I was, because I had quite a head on it. So the next time I poured their beer correctly and asked them if I passed, and they said yes, and I said, well, good, because now I can get a job downtown. So, but that camaraderie is just really special. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to follow up. Now, as far as getting background checks, there's only a certain type of volunteer that has to get a background check, right?
Yep.
Yeah. If for example, my church wanted to come in and sing,
Yes.
we're just, can
Yeah.
you explain that?
Sure. So, like the people that come in and do music or do a program, a one-time thing, because they're not transporting people and they're being, they're under supervision of staff, they don't have to go get the background check. Same with, like, I have a youth group coming next week. We're not gonna, that's just a chance for the kids to come in. They're gonna be with staff the whole time. So situations like that, we don't worry about getting a background check. But if you're gonna be coming in and doing like what Jane does, where she's helping with transporting, she's kind of off on her own, doing her own thing, then we do require the background check.
Okay, good.
So, and really, like we talked about, it is the one hurdle. And we used to have the fingerprinting ability in New Ulm. There was a place in New Ulm you could go. But
Okay.
again, that was something I think through COVID,
Okay.
that place no longer has it. And so
Right.
it is a trip to Mankato. But once you do it, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're in and you come in and you have fun like Jane's having and we go from there.
Why don't you talk about the effects that COVID had on your programs? No.
Yeah, COVID was obviously devastating on many levels for lots of different people. Because we had to shut down, volunteers were no longer allowed in the building. Family members, nobody was allowed in the building except for staff. So we had a chunk of time that was happening. And then, so that was hard because you lose your connections with your volunteers. But then things slowly eased up. I could have volunteers in as long as they had their COVID vaccine card. And then it got to the point where if people weren't vaccinated, they could fill out an exemption. And I am so happy to say that within the last couple weeks, we have now eliminated that. And we do not have masks in the building because that has hampered some of the volunteers from coming back.
Oh, sure.
Is the mask was difficult for them with the breathing. So as of right now, we are out of the masks and we don't have to worry about the vaccine status. So that's good. And I feel like I have been able to keep building the program back up again. I've had people come back and I've had new people join. And so, because it really enhances our programming. And it enhances the lives of the residents. We have wonderful staff, but we can only have so many people on. So the volunteers they do all that wonderful extra connecting and one-on-ones and touching lives. And it makes a huge difference to our residents.
Now, this is something that I sort of understood, but really didn't understand when we talked. I mean, there has been, since my grandma Hilma was in the nursing home in 1968, there has been big change in how living centers are being operated. Can you just talk a little bit about, with the language that you use for that change?
Sure. So, and I'll just refer to Oak Hills Living Center. So when I started, we followed more of the medical model of care, which is what most facilities were doing. So basically, you were working with what worked best for the staff. Breakfast was served at 8 o'clock. So even if you got up at 5:30 in the morning, you got your breakfast at 8 o'clock. So as we've evolved, we realized that wasn't a great way to deliver care. So we have since, I think we started in 2005, gone to what we call resident center care or person first. So we want to try to make the care more accommodating to the residents, give them an opportunity to make more choices. So in the mornings, we let people wake up when they'd like to, and we have something that's called open breakfast. So from 7:30 to 9:30, they can get an array of breakfast items. So it's more tailored to what they'd like. They can actually get breakfast anytime they want because we have little kitchenettes in each household. But there's more meal choices even at lunch and supper. It's not just one thing and that's all they have to choose from. So that's some of the things, and even with activities, just really taking in mind what their interests are, what kind of programming we can do to make things more individualized.
Were there any surprises for you when you started volunteering in as far as the way things worked or who you ran into or the types
Not
of
so much how things worked. I am amazed at the number of activities that Oak Hills offers. I mean, we are really, really lucky in this community. It is so active. Today, earlier, I volunteered and they had a quilt show. And the quilts were from local residents from Sleepy Eye, New Ulm, St. George. I can't remember how many, but there were so many gorgeous quilts. Well, then bringing the ladies down, some gentlemen came also, and walking around, and some of the quilts had little stories about them, wedding quilts, etc. Reading that, talking about the quilts, and then the first question that I asked all of them that I brought down, did you quilt? Some did, some didn't, but most moms or grandmas quilted. So I thought this activity, which I enjoyed for the beauty of the quilting and seeing names that I recognized, but it brought back memories for the residents.
Oh, right.
And they had the car show, which the
Ah.
Journal had a little picture about this past weekend, a couple weeks ago, was wedding dresses.
Oh, my goodness.
And, you know, a lot of time and effort by staff goes into these things. But also just, you know, game days weekly and bingos and stuff. People aren't sitting in their rooms by themselves unless they choose to. So that's what surprised me, was how, I would call it vibrant. And you,
Oh,
the-
that's
so
lovely.
the old image of nursing home, and you know, I knew that Oak Hills had the ice cream social and things like that, but other than a few years ago visiting somebody there, I didn't realize how vibrant it is. Yeah.
And that's another part of your job, right? Isn't it? Organizing all these fabulous activities? Is
Yes,
that right?
well, yes, as a recreation director, I also,
Oh,
we
okay.
have a life enrichment coordinator as
Oh,
well.
okay. Okay.
So we work well together with that. She's very creative and talented. And then we have a wonderful activity team.
Okay.
And Oak Hills has always put an emphasis on that. And even, you know, during COVID, many of the nursing homes around us were cutting activity staff, and we were adding. I
Okay.
mean, not a ton of hours, but enough to help, because we became everything. We
Okay.
were their family, we were their friends. You know, the staff had to now take on the many hats. And I think it really made a difference with our residents and coming through that time. So.
This is a little off topic, but let's just say somebody was interested in a career like you have. What is the educational background that's required?
Yep, so I got my degree from Mankato State. I have a Bachelor of Science, and I'm a Recreation Parks and Leisure Services major with an
Okay.
emphasis in therapeutic recreation.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds very impressive.
Yes, yes. It is.
Yeah.
It's a fun field to go into. There's lots of different avenues you can go on. You know, obviously when I got into it, I didn't realize that, you know, Oak Hills would be my second home for the last 27 years. But it really has become that way. And so it's been a blessing that that's the path that I got led down. And to, you know, my children came and volunteered when they were little. All three of them have worked there. In fact, two of my daughters are still working there. One is a nurse and one's a nurse's aide. And we have many family relations and dynamics like that in our building. And it's wonderful to see. It's just, there's a lot of connections with the staff, which I think therefore makes it better with the residents too. Because we're all looking out for each other and we're looking out for the residents. And I call it the Oak Hills family, because that is what it feels like.
You've been volunteering for a couple of weeks?
Gee,
how-
probably 6 weeks.
Oh, well, where does time
Maybe
go?
it
All right.
flies.
It does
Could be
fly.
getting close to
Okay.
2 months.
Okay.
So I am a real newbie,
Yeah.
though.
Well, but I was wondering, as you, as a newbie, you've been looking around, what type of person do you see as wanting to volunteer at Oak Hills? What have you noticed about your fellow volunteers?
Well, I think staff and volunteers always seem to be friendly. You know, one of the things that I told one of my friends probably the second week, I said, I'm so impressed when I'm taking someone down the hall to whatever activity, and staff that are in the hall doing charting or whatever, they greet that person nearly always by name. And I am struggling to learn names, but that really impressed me. That's the family atmosphere. But I think any personality that enjoys just chit-chatting with people can find a niche, because like Rachel said, you can do one-on-one reading to someone. You know, I seem to come in for the bigger activities, but I'm on her list for wherever she needs me. So, and I choose to do 2 days or 2 afternoons a week because I have the time. But somebody could volunteer once a month for something and be valuable.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
And hence the need for coordination, is that right? So you have a system, right?
Sure, no, no, I try to have a system. Like I said, I give credit to our local churches because they do have a lot of volunteers within their churches that come and they help get their members to their services, and then they have connections with the residents. I think it makes our residents really feel like a part of that church community yet. So they do a lot, so I know that they handle that, they coordinate when, when their services are and which volunteers are coming. I have a sign in and out sheet, so that's where they sign in and out. But yeah, usually people will tell me, I'd like to help with Card Club on Monday.
Okay.
And so I know, and then they'll just let me know if they can't make it.
Okay.
And then we plan accordingly. Or like Jane has said, I would like to volunteer every Friday. I love the bingo and social hour. I think it's so much fun. And that is one of those things, especially that social hour. It's, we're serving, it's the whole assisted living dining room and the whole chapel. I don't know, Jane, what would you say, 60, 70 people? I mean, there's a lot of residents.
and some spouses join.
Yes,
Oh,
now
for
that they
that.
can, yeah.
Yeah, which is nice too, because that leads to more conversation, you know.
And so it's great, the more hands we have helping, serving, the faster we get people their drinks and their snack, and then they can just, worry about visiting.
So it's a, social hour has beer, right?
Yes,
Is that right?
we actually
All
have,
right.
we have beer, we have wine, we do some mixed drinks as well. We like to have, a lot of times they have a drink of the week, a special,
Oh.
and it's adorable, because they're all, what's the special, what's the special? So it's fun, and we, sometimes there's theme days, every day seems to have a theme, or it's a national day of some sort or the other, like it was National Donut Day
Oh.
at the beginning of June, and we served little mini donut holes and mimosas, and they loved it. So it's just fun to mix it up and do different drink specials and things like that. And it, you know what, it's one of those, like, I want the residents to feel comfortable and normal. This is their home. And I always say, nobody plans or wants to go into a nursing home. It's never anyone's goal in life. So if someone is coming to us and this is gonna be their new home, I wanna make people comfortable. We wanna let people enjoy themselves and meet people and interact. And social hour is a great way to do that.
Sure, great. If someone is interested, having heard this wonderful, cheerful recitation of how much fun there is, what are the steps that person should be taking?
Well, probably one of the best ways to reach me is through email. That's what Jane did, and so it is on our website. If you go to oakhillslivingcenter.com, you can find it there. I can give it to you now. So it's Rachel Becker. It's RACHALBECKER at oakhillsnewulm.com. So
And I'm sure our text will put that up.
put that up there for, yes, so
Yes, right.
that's probably the best way. You can certainly call in as well to the front desk, to our main line, and they will transfer you to my phone. I'm not in my office a lot, so that's why the email is easier, because throughout the day as I check my emails, then I can get back. But you can even submit online. There's a form you can fill out and just kind of let me know what you're thinking, and we'll go from there. And yeah, there's, like I said, I try to work with the things that people are interested in. If you have a love of Vikings football, and that's what you want to visit about with somebody, I'm going to find the residents that love Vikings football, and we'll get you guys together.
Right, good. Is there anything else we should be talking about?
I always like to thank our community.
Oh,
New
okay.
Ulm is a special community, and Oak Hills Leaving Center would not be what it is without wonderful volunteers like Jane here. We have a long history of having great volunteers at Oak Hills Living Center and lots of support from the community, and we feel it, and we see it, and we're thankful.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add, Jane?
Well, I hope if you're even slightly thinking about, I'd like to volunteer someplace, love to have you contact Rachel, because her positive spin and a visit with her, I think you'd decide you could find a niche there.
I'll be there every Friday, right?
There.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you both for coming.
Yeah, thanks for
Again,
having us.
thank you, Rachel Becker. Thank you, Jane Walsh. Volunteer at Oak Hills. Have some fun.
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Ruth
you.
Ann.